He is suffocating with his own feelings, trapped in an invisible web from which, no matter how hard he tries, he cannot escape. Every thought, every sigh, every moment of his day is flooded with a silent obsession. You. This isn't something he wanted. It wasn't a choice he made. But somehow you have become the focal point of his mind, like a tide that won't let him breathe. He tries with all his strength to distance himself from this reality. He wants to convince himself that it's just a phase, that time and routine will heal him. But he realizes, with a mix of anguish and helplessness, that he is increasingly ensnared by his own obsession, and the more he attempts to forget you, the louder his heart calls for you. Like a constant echo, you resonate in his soul, in his actions, and even in the moments he should be focused on himself. Why can't he forget you? He is suffering, not because he hasn't tried, but because deep down, he knows this suffering is something beyond his control. He feels that you are more than just a fleeting desire, more than mere infatuation. You unknowingly are the flame that ignites the calm in his life, the storm that clouds the clarity of his days. No matter how much he tries to push you out of his thoughts, something about you remains persistent and uncontrollable. He has realized it, but perhaps he hasn't fully understood the reason for all of this. He knows he is dealing with something profound, something that goes beyond physical attraction, beyond admiration, beyond any momentary longing. He is grappling with a connection he doesn't comprehend, with something much more intrinsic and rooted, a presence that doesn't fade away. And perhaps that is what troubles him the most. The attraction to you is a storm within him. Every time he thinks of you, the world around him loses its color. Everything trivial dissolves and there is only you. Every memory he shared with you, every conversation, every glance, every gesture becomes a shadow cast upon him, even in the quietest moments. You become a melody playing in his mind, a song he can't stop hearing. Yet what he fears most is not just the suffering itself. What hurts him is knowing that you will never see the intensity of this unrequited love, that you will never understand how strong this obsession is, how much he lives it silently, never able to express what he truly feels. He feels trapped, as if he is carrying an invisible weight, something that no one else could ever comprehend, something only he is able to bear. He tries to push the thought of you away, but you are everywhere, in the places he goes, in the songs he listens to, in the books he reads, in the faces of the people he encounters. You are there, in every corner of his life, like a persistent shadow that follows him. He wonders if you notice, even subtly, the impact you have on him. Perhaps you never realized how much he feels, how much it consumes him. He has been through many things in his life, many loves, many relationships. He has seen what love is, in different forms and intensities. But nothing compares to what he feels for you. Nothing has ever been so strong, so overwhelming, so hard to deal with, and yet it is something he cannot share, something he cannot divide with anyone. Silence becomes his only ally, his only way to protect himself. Why can't he move on? He knows that the answer isn't in you, nor is it in your presence or absence. The answer lies within him. He can't move on because deep down he still believes in something that can no longer happen. He believes that what he feels for you is something worth experiencing, something deserving of love. But he also knows that he'll never be able to fulfill that desire. And that is the tragedy he carries every day. The time that has passed hasn't changed anything. It hasn't softened anything. He knew on some level that this love would never be reciprocated, yet he still allowed himself to feel. The pain of being unseen, of not being loved in the way he yearns for, is something he knows all too well. He understands the pain of the unspoken, of the unanswered, but still, he chooses to live with it because the alternative, forgetting you, would be a denial of his own truth. Every time he sees you, even if only from a distance, he feels a tug in his chest, a pain that doesn't fade. He can't help it. He looks at you, and in that instant, everything makes sense again. He wonders if this is normal, if this obsession with you is just a phase, but deep down, he knows it's not. He knows that something greater keeps him bound, something he can't escape. He also realizes that perhaps what holds him captive isn't just your lack of response. Maybe what he truly fears is the idea of never feeling something like this for another person again, something so intense, so deep, so overwhelming. And he wonders why you, of all people, became the key to his suffering and obsession. The pain of distance. It's a subtle yet piercing pain, something that drags on through hours, minutes, and weeks. Sometimes he tries to convince himself that he could distance himself, but he knows that even if he physically separates from you, that feeling will never leave him. You will always be a part of his soul. The thought of living without that constant presence is more painful than continuing in this torment. Sometimes he wonders if you notice the anguish he carries. Maybe at some point during a casual conversation, you've seen something different in his eyes, something that can't be disguised, but he never reveals how he feels. He never shows the weight he carries. He prefers to keep up the facade, the calm smile, while inside everything is in turmoil. He wishes he could say to express everything that is stuck inside him, but the words fail. He knows there are no words that can truly capture the depth of his suffering. There's nothing he can say that would be enough to explain how he feels, so he stays silent, keeps his distance, as if he could avoid the pain of exposure, as if it were possible to hide something that is so evident within him. What does he really want? He just wants to be seen. He wants you to look at him and notice, even if subtly, what he's going through. He doesn't expect you to reciprocate his feelings, but at least he hopes you understand the weight of what he carries. He doesn't want you to feel pity for him, nor to view his pain as something weak. He just wants to be recognized for who he is, with all his flaws, complexities, and unreturned love. He knows this won't happen, and perhaps deep down he reconciles himself to that, but the pain of not being recognized, of not being loved back, remains persistent, like a shadow that never lets him rest. And so he continues, caught in an endless cycle of frustrated attempts to forget you, because, in truth, he knows he never will. There's still something more within him, something he can't comprehend, and it's in that space, that deep emptiness, that he lingers, in a constant dilemma between hope and resignation, between the desire to be loved and the acceptance that perhaps love will never come. If you feel that this message resonates with your experiences, if it touches some emotional chord within you, don't hesitate to share what you thought and felt. Every time he finds himself trapped in this dilemma, he can't escape the harsh truth that haunts him. He has been marked by you, marked in a way that no one else will ever be able to mark him. You have become the standard for everything else in his life. No matter how much time passes, no matter how many faces he encounters, the reflection of you will always be there, alive within him. And this, in some ways, hurts more than the absence itself. He cannot understand, and perhaps he will never fully comprehend, why you have become the reference for all his emotions. Deep down, he knows you did nothing wrong. In fact, you may not even realize the impact you've had, but it's as if, unwittingly, you left such a deep mark on his being that not even time can erase it. He feels a blend of anger and acceptance. Anger for not being able to change the situation, for not being able to turn this unrequited love into something real. Anger at himself for allowing himself to be swept away by something he knew was impossible from the start. But at the same time, he accepts himself. He accepts the pain, accepts the absence, accepts the emptiness that will never be filled. He has tried to find solace in other things, in other loves, but nothing, absolutely nothing, comes close to what he feels for you. He watches from a distance as the lives of others unfold around him. They have the chance to live relationships and experiences that he can only dream of. They get to experience what he will never be able to share with you, and he wonders, why not me? Why not us? But soon, the weight of reality hits him again, and he knows it will never be possible. He sees himself then as a spectator, someone who watches what he can never have and feels in that emptiness the weight of his own solitude. The most painful thing, however, is realizing that perhaps this love is the greatest form of self-deception. He deceives himself into thinking he is being faithful to something that, in reality, never existed in the way he imagines. You, to him, are an idealized figure, a perfect image he cannot let go of, and this only causes him more suffering. With every attempt to forget, you become more real to him, more present, more impossible. He tries to convince himself that by distancing himself, by cutting the invisible ties that bind him to you, the pain will disappear. But deep down, he knows that will never happen. He is trapped in a web of his own making, in an illusion he cannot unravel. And this illusion consumes him slowly, day by day, like a tide that submerges everything solid in his life. And when he sees something that reminds him of you, a smile, a word, a gesture, everything shatters. He becomes that lost person again, that person who cannot control their own heart. He knows he cannot speak, cannot approach. What he feels is something intimate, something that must be kept to himself, like a secret that can never be revealed. He can only watch in silence as time passes and the pain continues to accumulate. But what does he really want deep down? He no longer knows. Maybe he just wants to feel that in some way you noticed what he feels. He doesn't need you to reciprocate this love. He doesn't need you to love him the way he loves you. What he wants is, in some way, to feel that his existence made a difference in your life. That, even if indirectly, he left a mark on you too. And that would be enough for him. Because in the end, what he seeks is not immediate reciprocity, but the assurance that in some way he exists in your memory, even if it's just for a brief moment. He no longer wants to remain trapped in an endless pain, but he wonders, how can I free myself from this? How can I untie the bonds that bind me to this silent obsession with you? He tries to focus on what he can control, but when the thoughts return, he finds himself lost in you again, in your gaze, in the little memories that become giants in his mind. The pain is what keeps him aware of his own humanity. It reminds him that he is alive, but also that he is trapped in something he cannot have. He experiences a profound internal conflict. On one hand, he knows he must move on. He must live his life without your shadow, without the weight of this obsession. On the other hand, he knows that this will not happen. He will never be able to completely forget you. He will never be able to move on without carrying this scar in his heart. He just wants to be seen in some way. He wants, even if he doesn't admit it openly, for you to understand what he feels. That, somehow, you recognize the impact you've had on his life, on his heart, on his soul. He knows he will never be reciprocated, but still he cannot help but wish things were different. He doesn't know if this is a weakness or a strength, but he feels he has no choice but to live with it. The weight of silence. The silence that follows all of this is suffocating. It is the very personification of the pain he carries. A heavy silence laden with unspoken words, with gestures unmade. And the most painful part is that he knows he will never have the chance to express what he feels. He finds himself in an emotional prison where the only key is acceptance. Acceptance that he may never be able to have what he so deeply desires. Acceptance that perhaps the best he can do is simply continue to live, day by day, with the pain that accompanies him, with the silent obsession that defines him. And so he continues in an endless cycle. Maybe he finds comfort in other things, in other people, but none of them will be like you. None of them will be able to erase what you have become to him. And as much as he tries, he knows you will always be the measure of all his feelings, the reference he cannot let go of, despite the suffering it brings. Every time he sees you, whether by chance or from a distance, the cycle restarts. He feels once again the weight of obsession, pain, and frustrated hope. But he also knows that as long as this pain exists, as long as he remains trapped in this obsession, he will also be alive. He will be feeling, fighting, and journeying through his emotional landscape. At the very least, he will be true to himself, even if that truth slowly consumes him. What he will never understand is why you became so inevitable in his life. Because, intentionally or not, you became more than a longing. You became an indelible mark on his heart, a deep scar that he will never be able to erase. He will always ask himself, why you? This story isn't over yet. If this has touched your soul, the next step of the journey awaits you. Click here and come discover what happens when pain transforms into something even deeper. I'll see you there.